high school students.
All right. All right. Welcome to the line. I'm here with Ian. And Ian, would you just tell those of us, those who might be listening, where we are right now?
So we're in Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania, kind of like the actual center-ish area. We're at a company called DiamondBack Truck Covers, and it is a great opportunity for anybody that loves the welding trade.
Yeah.
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 Cool. Awesome. So, here on the line, our mission, our vision is to lift the view of the skilled trades. And so we have this opportunity here to talk with you in this manufacturing facility where right now behind us, if you can't hear it, then you probably are deaf. But the fact of the matter is we're here and they're making these truck covers as we're having this honest conversation. So, Ian, tell us and those listening just a little bit about your origin story. Where did you come from, and how did you get where you are? What is your role here at DiamondBack, just so that they have some anchor points of where we're talking about?
Yeah. So, I mean, we can go as far back as like kind of my hometown, which is not far away from here. It's a little town called Belwood-Annis. So we're a graduating class. I want to say my class was about 96 students. So a relatively small community, but the benefit of that is you get a little more focus from your peers. You know who you get to build a lot more relationships with, because there's not a lot of like in and out of cliques and stuff like that. So
Okay.
a lot of opportunities in those smaller communities. From there, I'd signed up to do a vocational class with Greater Altoona Career and Technology Center. So from there, what we did was I signed up under their welding program. Luckily, with the how do I want to say it, with the encouragement of my father. So he ended up getting lucky with that, because I couldn't be more thankful that he pushed me in this direction. What I can say though is, because of that, I am where I'm at now. So coming out of high school, what I had done was kind of like float around. I realized that I wasn't kind of ready to just jump into welding, but it was strictly because I didn't have any background experience, so I guess I was nervous getting into the trade.
So, Ian, was your dad a welder, or like what?
No.
What?
Yeah. So it's out of left field in the sense that he was a CO at Loretto Prison for 25, maybe 30 years, somewhere like that. So I think that he saw the opportunity, like as you guys are seeing today, that this is a field that isn't going to be shrinking anytime soon.
No, it's not. So
being able to be blessed with that opportunity is where I was excited about, right? So from there, so we'll go from graduated high school, floated around for a little bit, got into the restaurant business, kind of just being a young dumb kid, trying to figure out, hey, how can I still have fun but still float on? Obviously made stupid decisions as a kid.
Yeah.
Best part is none of them were detrimental to my life. So I obviously was able to take those as learning opportunities and really start to figure out, hey, this isn't going to get me anywhere, or
right.
This isn't going to get me anywhere positive. So I'm not saying that you can't create something out of the restaurant industry, but
it just wasn't the right fit for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So from there, I had signed on to a company called McClanahan's. Worked there for about 2 years. This was the farming and aggregate manufacturer. And what I will say about McClanahan's is the culture's a 180 from DiamondBack's. It was kind of a, hey, you either know somebody or you know more than what we know, and that's what we need.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I completely understand that from their experience, because you don't want to invest in a new welder and hope that it works out. I think
Well, just to be clear, some people don't.
Yes.
Some people do invest in new welders.
So that's
I think some of those people are here in this building.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how I'll clarify that is if you're not expecting to invest in the new welders, your company will start seeing failures in the sense
100%.
that you're going to start losing skill, you're going to start losing potential. It all goes out the window pretty quickly.
I think that's one of the things that just in the trades and in construction and even skilled trades that enter into manufacturing, all that stuff is, if we're not investing in training and teaching and building into people, then they're not going to show up.
Exactly.
They're not going to see that, because when you invest in someone, I believe that communicates value to that person, and I believe that person has value.
Yeah, and keep in mind, as you're graduating high school and you hear you're either going to go to college or you're not going to really amount to anything, what is being ignored there is the potential. And whenever you stop looking at various other outlets, you lose your potential. You almost give it up in the sense that, well, if I don't go to college, I'm just going to, I don't know what examples I have of, like,
right.
Hey, this is a terrible outlet. But I think if somebody isn't there to challenge you, you're not, especially fresh out of school, if somebody isn't there to challenge you and you're not already challenging yourself, you're making a huge career mistake in the sense that you can be learning a lot more the more you challenge yourself.
Well, I recently was talking with a guy, and I told him if it's not hard, it's probably not worth doing. And the fact of the matter is, we need to be challenged. We need some hard experiences, because that makes us better, because we have to improve them.
Yeah.
That makes us, continually improving in that regard. So you worked at these different places, and then now you're here at DiamondBack. So you're here at DiamondBack. You started here as a welder, right?
Correct.
Okay. And how long have you been at DiamondBack?
So I'm going to be cresting 10 years in about 6 months, 7 months, somewhere in that range.
That's not a small milestone.
I mean, so looking back, it is now.
Right.
But if you had told me 7-8 years ago that, hey, you'll still be around, I again, young and dumb, I'd have said like, oh, yeah, I doubt that. But I think I realized that very shortly in that this is a company that I'm not only super proud to be at, but it's a company that makes me challenge myself every day in the sense of how can we do something better? How can we make somebody's life better? How can we're always looking to advance and progress.
So you came to DiamondBack. You're a welder here, and I find it interesting. The welders are actually right behind us through that curtain there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but they're back there behind us welding right now. And so that's what you started here doing. And when you started here, DiamondBack was in a slightly different facility, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. So I would say at no fault of their own, we almost came from a cavern into a mansion. Being greeted with that fresh out of McClanahan's, I'm just looking for another job, another opportunity especially in the welding field, because I had realized that during that stint, like, hey, this is something that I wanted to continue to pursue.
So when your dad encouraged you in that, what do you think as a parent when he's telling you to go weld, and he has no experience in that? Did he ever tell you why he wanted you to be invested in the trades?
So he has like minimal experience. I'll give him that.
What's your dad's name?
John Greene.
John Greene. So John, if you're listening, your son just said you have minimal experience.
It's at no disrespect to you, Dad.
Nice save.
But anyway, so I think he understood, like, because he had a lot of his friends, even like to today, had that welding background. I think he saw the opportunities that they were receiving.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've shot around from anything to like going for the pipe fitters union to like Boilermakers, stuff like that. So I would go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so you've tried all of those different things, looking at those different things, but then you came here at DiamondBack, and when you got here, your role is different now, 10 years later, than it was then. And I think it's important for us to just acknowledge the fact that sometimes we just need to send it. You know, when you're young and you're trying to figure out, well, what do I want to do? The options out there are more than what the world or culture is telling you.
Exactly.
I think the options are pretty important, and that's what we're trying to talk about here. Because now, what is your role here at DiamondBack? What are you doing now?
So I am the incoming production manager.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously there's a lot of stepping stones in between there, and I can say that this isn't all done by me. This is obviously my teammates, the culture itself, and just relationships. Being able to have good relationships, being able to share and trust with my peers. Without that, I'd just be doing the daily grind and trying to figure out, hey, where is my next stepping stone?
Right.
I on your point earlier, I would like to say, like, I would rather hear somebody saying that I've had 15 jobs in the last 5 years trying to figure out something that I like than somebody being like, well, I'm on year 15 of this living hell job that literally is just going to get them into the grave quicker. If you're not enjoying life, you're not living.
Well, and yeah, we need to be about living.
Exactly.
We need to be about doing life. And so I remember my father when I was young, and I say this a lot, but it's the truth of my story. He encouraged me to learn a trade first.
Yep.
And I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to college or what I wanted to do. And he's like, learn a trade. And I realized that in learning a trade, no one can take that away from me. That's something that I have, that if everything falls apart, I know how to, for me, it was electrical work.
Yeah.
And so I know how to wire this or do that. I'm definitely not as good at it. I don't even know if I ever was really good at it. But if you work hard at something and you push yourself, then you're going to be able to move to the next level. You're going to be able to improve and just continue to step up, which is what you've done.
Yeah. And it's it makes it easier whenever you don't hate your job. When you can show up to work, not always bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. That would be a stretch, but when you can, like, actually tell yourself, you're not trying to convince yourself. You can fully tell yourself, yes, I don't hate my job. And you get to be able to use your own honed trade. You're going to enjoy life so much more.
So you've been here 10 years, and are you married?
I am.
Family?
I have a daughter.
You have a daughter. Okay. So there's an important thing when you are married, you have a daughter, and it's important whether you have that or not, but I'm bringing that up for this statement. So you became a welder, you got a job. Do you make a good living? You don't need to tell. We don't need to talk numbers, but I mean, I think that's an important factor, because one thing about the trades that a lot of people think is, well, there's just no money in it. There's no way that I can actually afford to support my family and live a good life.
Yeah, I think that comes down to two different things there. So without like delving too deep, if you're in a situation that you're living paycheck to paycheck regardless, and you don't start budgeting and trying to figure out how you can improve, and you just continue that grind of paycheck to paycheck, you're not, no matter where you're at financially, you can make 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures. If
and
you're still living paycheck to paycheck,
paycheck,
it all feels the same.
Yeah.
But at no point in life, while I've held a job in my trade, I've never been in a position of, hey, I'm behind.
Yeah.
I've had years of ramen, but that is that's nothing that college is going to avoid you of.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that's really important to reference is the fact that, having a budget and looking at those things, it really doesn't have anything to do with how much you make. It's how you manage what you have.
Yeah. I know. So I have buddies that have graduated college. They've done the whole nine, and they delivered for FedEx for the last 5 years.
Wow.
You don't need a college degree to deliver for FedEx, right?
Right.
And that's not me like dissing. That's just kind of how. Hey, if you don't challenge yourself, then yeah, you're gonna live with the status quo.
Right. Right. So we've reached that time where I like to kind of change it up a little bit and ask you a question. So what is one piece of gear or a tool that you can't live without?
So this is a tough one. I would argue probably. So if I'm looking from a trade perspective,
Okay.
Definitely the welder.
Really?
Yeah.
So you got to defend that and tell me why.
So because without the welder, I don't have a job.
Okay.
But on the other hand, as a more personal tool,
Yeah.
I would say, how do I want to say this? So I believe they call it like painting the paradigm, but I would argue like just being able to share what I'm thinking. So being able to have open discussions, I think, is a huge tool.
Wow, you took that away. I mean, I was expecting you to say like screwdriver.
Well, screwdrivers are pretty cool.
So wow, we're going deep, man.
Yeah. I mean, so everything that's on like the shallow end of stuff is really easy to like
So-
kind of recognize. But
So say that again. Your number one tool that you can't live without. Say that statement again, just so that we can. I mean, and take a minute and just listen to what he says.
being able to host and foster any type of communication, being able to have, whether it be issues or even like congratulatory stuff, it's the more you talk about it and have those open communications, the more powerful not only you but the people around you are going to become. They're gonna feel more heard. They're gonna feel more supported. There's going to be, and that's going to work on both ends of the fence. If somebody's always dismissing you, especially from a management role,
Right.
You're not going to enjoy your job. You're going to feel like, hey, I'm just talking to a brick wall.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a huge thing, and I guess you could pin it down to communication, but it's a little deeper than just being able to have the communications.
Yeah. So how do you do that sometimes when? And this is interesting because you are a manager of people.
Yeah.
So you have the opportunity to be the brick wall, or you have the opportunity to be someone to listen.
Exactly. So that is one of the finer points of the entire idea. There's going to be times where you have those really frustrating conversations where you can't get that point across, or that person doesn't want to listen. There's people that I'll even point out by saying like this might be the same person day to day that they flip flop on that.
Right.
But as long as you can go into every conversation with a clear conscience and not hold any type of like previous grudges, anything like that, you're gonna be able to have deeper conversations. You're gonna be able to have that trust start building, and you'll be able to start kind of creating your future replacement, because that's in the end that's what I want to do. I'm not here to like, I don't want to coast at where I'm at right now. I want to be able to trust the next person in line, or I mean in general my entire team.
I think that's something that's really important. In what we do is whether you're an electrician, you're a welder, you're a plumber, you're a carpenter. If you're not training your replacement, then you can't move forward.
Exactly.
Like there's no opportunity then. And so I think sometimes we get stuck in that because we're like, well, I need experienced people. No, we need to train experienced people.
Exactly.
We need to take the time and make the investment. We need to be teaching those people how to do our job so that we can move on to the next job. And that's how you climb the ladder, whether it's in the construction organizations, or whether it's in the manufacturing organization, whatever your job is, if you're not training someone else to do your job and to do it better than you,
exactly,
then you're not going to be able to move on.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that'll circle back to the that culture conversation, in the sense that if you don't feel like you're making progress in the day to day, you don't feel like you're part of the culture.
Yeah.
You don't feel like, hey, I'm just going to always be the go-to guy for this, and you won't feel kind of left.
Right. So, how is it? Do you feel like, you and I talked earlier when we were going around. How is it that they hear your management team has, not just built you a skill, but they've built you as a person? Because I believe, and just to be clear, the theme of what we're talking about here today, you and me, is culture. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about culture that people want to be a part of, and culture that takes the person to the next level. And I think that that's where you separate from you're teaching the skill to building the person, when you transition into that culture piece.
Yeah. So you can bring all the skills you want to the table, but if you're hard to work with, you're not going to be able to fit in anywhere. And that's across the board in any type of professional industry. If you're hard to work with, there's going to be somebody that does it. Maybe it's a little less quality wise, but nobody wants to come into work and have that same disagreement every day, have to work with that same gruff employee every day and say, yeah, man, this is just how it's going to be. Without improving those relationships, you don't make any growth.
So, Ian, how many people do you currently manage?
Oh boy, I want to say 84. 4 like direct.
I thought he was going to say 8.
So
wow,
I'm responsible for the safety of a lot of people, and obviously I take that with a lot of pride, and it's a lot of responsibility. So
84. Wow.
Yeah, we've been on a hiring spree, so I might be able to give you a more factual number there as well.
Wow, 84. That's impressive. The point is, I can't even imagine managing 84 people.
Yeah, so that I can point out, that's where, again, we say, hey, are we training people to replace us? And people like to look at that as like a negative thing, but it's not, because there's two shift leads underneath, or horizontally for me, skill wise, that I can literally rely on those 2 shift leads to take care of all of those people. I can rely on the cell leads. I believe we're at 7 of those right now.
Wow.
So I have.
So there's a structure and a tier to the way that you guys operate. So talk with me about culture. Let's talk about what is culture to you. So you're managing 84 people. What is the culture that you're trying to foster and build with that team of people?
So the biggest thing is 1, empathy, 2, support, 3, knowledge. I think those are the 3 top.
So just to be clear, empathy, support, and knowledge are your 3 top things in building culture.
Yeah, and I would always peg knowledge comes last, always, in the sense that again, without the empathy or support, you're sharing information that probably isn't going to get used, because there's going to be people that are saying, like, what am I going to do with this? And a lot of people you might be able to kind of like coax into being more interactive or more on board by sharing, hey, these are like some clear growth steps that we can make together that work out better for both of us.
So when you're dealing with your team of people, and you're dealing with building that culture, and you have those 3 anchor points, we'll call them.
Yep.
How is it that you're communicating and promoting empathy? Like what does that mean to you when you say, well, these are the 3 things? What does empathy mean to you? I mean, we know what the definition is, but what does it mean to you?
So So I don't know if Morgan will like to hear this.
Oh, boy.
But, so when
Morgan, we don't edit anything. This is just an authentic podcast.
So when it comes to like we obviously we have an employee handbook, right?
Yeah.
There's clear guidelines in it. But let's take like bereavement for example. Obviously, nobody wants to lose a loved one.
Right.
But there's guidelines of like, hey, direct family that obviously is a lot bigger of an impact.
Yeah.
But there's people that their mom and dads weren't there, or they were raised by their sisters and stuff like that.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. So being able to kind of like play a little loose there.
Yeah.
And understand, again, it comes down to nobody walks the same path. Nobody has the same challenges. Everybody has a different role in life. And being able to share that you understand that makes a huge part, builds a huge piece of that trust puzzle.
I really like what you say there about nobody walks the same path. I think that's something that's really important for us in having empathy, is recognizing that my experiences are probably different than your experiences. And also recognizing that is different for different people, so that way you can try to relate and understand where they're coming from, so that you can care for them.
Exactly. Yeah. And listen, you can't fake about caring about somebody. 9 out of 10 people are going to see right through it.
Yeah.
And that is way more detrimental to that relationship than...
Given it enough time, anyone and everyone will see through it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's empathy. Your next one was support.
Support.
So talk to me about support. What is support in your building of culture and what you're doing?
So support, obviously, that's my second leg there. Without the empathy, you can't really show that support. With support, what you can do is, again, you start to create that path. You start to create that picture of, hey, this is where our path can take us. These are things that I can see you really excelling in. These are opportunities that one, should excite you. Two, you're going to be able to take advantage of.
Yeah.
Support also comes down to things like, hey, so I hate to take it financially, but there's been times where I've had somebody try to cash out a 401 just for like a quick loan, and
right.
Thankfully that didn't go through, because nobody should want to touch their 401k until, hey, it's time to hang it up.
Right.
So being able to kind of help paint those pictures, and like, hey, these are things that are going to affect you down the road.
So how do you do that with people on your team? How do you paint those pictures, especially when you're, like, you bring up a really good point. You're getting into, I would think it's risky, because you're getting into someone's personal life.
Yeah. So obviously you have to have boundaries. You don't sit there and pry into people's personal lives. If they're willing to share it, that means that they trust you. Mm-hmm. If they're willing to trust you, they're willing to listen, and that should be reciprocated back. So if you're ready to take on everybody's trust but give nobody else your trust, again, that's going to be detrimental to that relationship. You're going to end up getting burnt on it. And it comes down to, hey, are you actually here to work with people, or are you here to just work for yourself?
Ooh. Are you here to work with people, or are you here to work for yourself? That's the question. I mean, that's a good question. Because if you're not here to work with people, then why be a part of a team at all?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you might as well solo dolo somewhere else. It's
yeah.
And I don't know how many of people that will be listening to this that want to actually.
I'm pretty sure we have like 3 subscribers. So
okay. Well, if all 3 of you guys could honestly tell yourself you want to live your entire life by yourself, I suggest you challenge that.
Yeah, absolutely. So your third leg then would be knowledge. Talk to me about that.
So knowledge, again, now this is the third leg, so it's not, I rank them in importance, to me at least. Knowledge is something that is going to be freely shared at some point in time after you've built that empathetic side, that just being, again, that trust. There's nothing that's more important than trust.
Okay, can we stop? Because I actually had a question for you. Is there anything that's more important than trust?
Yeah,
Ian?
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm hyper about trust, I suppose.
You're hyper about trust. So, do you think trust matters?
Not at all.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think trust highly matters.
Yeah.
If I didn't think that you guys were here to support the trade community,
Yeah.
I wouldn't sit down with you guys, right? I would think like, hey, I mean, these guys are just in it for themselves. They're not here to actually share anything. They just want to look good, right? I trust that you guys are making impacts in that trade community.
Well, I'm honored that you would give us that trust, because trust is something that you can't take. It only can be given.
Exactly.
And so I appreciate that you've given that to us.
Hey,
here at
I'll give you
Blackline.
guys a little like heads up. I did do a little background, but everything looked like it was on the up and up. So
Good.
um,
You sure it was our website? So, never mind.
I don't know, eBay. So what we were talking about knowledge.
Yeah.
So when it comes to knowledge, whenever it comes to, like, I can share any tidbit of information I want, but if it's not some type of building block on something that you're interested in, I'm not gonna have your ear. I'm just kind of telling you something, right?
Right.
It's just scrolling through your Twitter, your X feed, or your Facebook feed. Yeah, it's you see it and you hear it, but it doesn't like sink in.
Yeah.
So being able to kind of show knowledge, which it's hard to show knowledge as much as it is to kind of like.
Oh, we know
verbalize
how
it.
it's hard to show knowledge. That's a big part of what these guys are doing behind the scenes here.
Yeah.
So,
So being able to share knowledge in that sense, you're gonna have. Again, you're gonna be able to build that trust. You're gonna be able to build that skill that you need behind you. That we're talking about. Hey, you're ready to fill in my shoes, and we won't miss a beat.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, being able to say that, yeah, it can be scary because, hey, this person steps up and knocks a home run on the first swing, and hey, I'm worried about myself. But
Right.
I think being able to create that positive culture, you're not going anywhere,
Yeah.
because do you know, like, nobody else is ready to be like, hey, this person just built. He helped influence this person into what we see today.
Yeah.
We don't. It's not. Oh man, he did a great job training. Let's get him out of here, right?
Yeah.
No company that's worth their time is going to shed somebody that is ready to build their peers.
Come on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you're about building other people, there's no better way and faster way to climb the ladder.
Yeah.
And I hate the term ladder because it implies that there's people beneath you. When you operate on a team basis and you're operating as a team, you move together.
Exactly.
And I think that's something that I want to break in our world culture, in the sense of there's a ladder that I need to climb. The fact of the matter is, you need to build those around you. And if you build the people around you and you invest in the people around you, I believe that is not only then how you advance in life, but then it gives you fulfillment in what you're doing, and then they become a support system to you as well.
Yep.
Because there's an African proverb that I've heard. I'm going to see if I can get it right. But basically, you can go really fast alone.
Yep.
You can go really far together.
Yep. Yeah. To put it in a smooth sentence, yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot more to it, right? Like, it's not always going to look like that straight path. There's going to be
Yeah.
hard and narrow turns, and that's why you rely on that support that you fostered and you created.
Yeah.
That you hope that nobody's going to leave you in the lurch when it comes to, hey man, I made this mistake. Can somebody help me out? And you're not going to look around and say, oh, I'm by myself because I was too afraid to share knowledge,
Yeah.
or I was afraid to give this person a chance.
Yeah. Well, and if you're not being honest and sharing that knowledge, and then that's another thing, and it comes back to what you said. If you're not willing to invest in people, then a team isn't for you.
Exactly. Yeah. You're a solo contractor.
Exactly. And yeah, that's another podcast all in of itself.
Well, hopefully solo contractors are building that. again, you're not trying to stay solo by yourself. Hopefully, you're trying to help. I mean, we want to further our nation, right? Like that is. If we don't kind of always have that in the back of our mind to a degree, then we are kind of solo, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, the interesting thing is we need to be investing because the fact of the matter, if people did invest before us, then we wouldn't be where we are and have what we have to invest in the next generation.
Yeah, I would still be a line cook right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's important to recognize. It's like, hey, you start somewhere, but you want to continually be growing and continually be advancing and going where it is that you want to go. So
yeah, I'm not looking to share anything revolutionary. This is just the path that I've walked so far, and I'm super excited about it.
I think revolutionary is actually really simple. There's a phrase called KISS, keep it simple, stupid.
Yep.
And I don't think things are all that complicated. I think the fact of the matter is, it's like you work hard, you invest in other people, and you share what you've learned. That's how you build teams. That's how you build people. That's how you build industry. That's how you build infrastructure. That's how we lift the view of the skilled trades. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And the more that we do that, and here's the deal, I can't do that alone. You can't do that alone. But together, if we step up to the line, if we are about that, then we can actually change the trajectory of, a town, a city, a state, a country. We can literally change that.
Yeah, so I think that's what's most exciting about it is the more people on board with that philosophy, it becomes exponentially quicker.
Right.
So I am used to seeing stuff like shared. In today's world, everything's moving pretty fast already, but the amount of changes I've seen in Phillipsburg alone is already like, oh man, that's like we've already made some impacts here.
Yeah.
You're used to seeing like, hey, well, by 2035 we'll have 100% renewables, right?
Right.
You're like,
right.
Okay, well, yeah, that's great, but are we actually making steps to that? Whenever you can turn around and look at your actual surroundings and say, yeah, hey, we're not looking to make steps. We're actively here.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to grow from here. It's not something that we just plan and hope that we hit goals when it comes to those things.
Are you talking about renewables and green things because your last name is Greene? Is that what that's about?
Yeah, go Greene.
Yeah, go Greene. Okay. We're coming, to the close of the podcast, and I like to shift as we come to the end. I have a question for you that, and you haven't probably watched it yet, so you wouldn't know this, but I want to ask you, one of the reasons that I'm doing this and that we're investing in this way in people is my faith affects a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I care a lot about the future.
Yeah.
The next generation, my children are the next generation. And so they matter to me, and so do yours. I think that just like what we talked about, the reason that your children matter and my children matter is because it's that culture and that team that we want to build in the world that we live in. Like,
yeah, so
I don't want them to be solo either.
Culture doesn't end at your place of employment. That
It
is something that
doesn't
you
end
live.
Yeah, 100%. So my question for you is faith and future. And whatever your answer is okay, but what is your faith and future? Like what? Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure I understand.
So I mean,
like how do I feel like we're moving towards the future? Or
so like,
how does faith
play into your life at all? And what is that? And what are your thoughts for the future? Like, what do we need to do to make things different?
If you're a person of faith, I think you understand that you're never alone. Mm-hmm. There's no reason that you should ever feel alone. Especially we're coming up on Christmas time, so if you need somebody to make sure you reach out and say something.
Yeah.
When it comes to the faith in the future, I would say because we're actively talking about it right now.
Yeah.
I think that we're in great hands as long as we continue to pursue this outlet.
Yeah. So how do you affect? You're managing 84 people. So also with this, I wanted to ask this question before we close. How is it that how do you start with affecting that team? Do you start with 84 people, or do you start with one?
Give me a little more clarity there.
So, like, when we're building culture.
Yeah. Okay.
When we're building culture in people, is it something that you start with 10, or do you start with, hey, I'm talking to you right now, and you're the person that I'm investing in. You're the person that I care about. You're the person that I want to give, empathy to. You're the person that I want to give support to. You're the person that I want to give knowledge to. You matter to me.
Yeah.
Or do you talk with everybody? Like, are we talk with, like, how do you do that?
So, I mean, I come from a position of grace, in the sense that I have been able to work with these guys and girls as long as I have. I've been able to build those relationships day to day, and
one brick at a time.
Person, yes.
One brick at a time.
What I would say though is, if you're in a new position and you're trying to start that positive change in your culture, literally what the first thing you're going to look for is somebody that is going to listen, and you need to start building that team. Once you start building that team, then you're able to start focusing on, like, hey, these are places that we can make improvements.
Right.
Once we start making those improvements, people start getting on board. You see people are living happier lives. You say, hey, we're making great progress.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there's gonna be days where you're like, oh man, this absolutely sucks.
Yeah.
There's gonna be frustrating days,
Yeah.
and you're gonna say, how many times are we gonna talk about this? But you can all. There's been plenty of times I've had those conversations, and within a year, probably even shorter, I am able to say, hey, remember whenever we had that rocky relationship back in the day? Like,
yeah.
How stupid was that?
Yeah.
But we're also able to say, like, hey, we're not there anymore. We've made progress. We've built on that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something too that's important. Just because something gets hard doesn't mean that you quit.
Exactly. Yeah. The harder it gets, the more challenging it becomes. I would almost argue the funner and more.
Did you just say funner?
Yeah.
Is that yeah.
Yeah. Because if you're not having fun while you're doing, like, there's a degree of fun, I'll say.
I was making fun of your grammar.
Yeah, sorry.
Because I could hear my mom going, that's not a word, Joshua. That's not a word.
The more fun it becomes, regardless of the grammar there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, if you're not having that little bit of enjoyment seeing that progress in your peers, then maybe have a different outlook on it. And every person's going to need that different outlook from person to person. So that's going to be one of the huge skills in that culture growth.
I like that. A culture of growth. That's what we want to build. A culture of growth. That's good. So, Ian, with DiamondBack, I want to give you the opportunity. If there's one thing that you want to close with, we're sending people out here from the podcast, and we're closing out. What is the one thing that you want those on the other side of the camera, those that are listening, to hear?
If you have ever been concerned about taking a job or taking a trade or going to college, there's people that have walked that path. There's people that you can talk to. There's people that have again, we talked about different paths, but there's people that have made similar steps. So there's nothing wrong with reaching out and asking questions to obviously your peers, your elders. Doesn't matter who. If there's somebody in the field that interests you, ask questions about it. Start challenging yourself to continually gain knowledge in it, because everything you don't know, you don't know. So that it makes it a little easier whenever you can say, well, I have heard, as opposed to I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really, again, a simple statement. If you don't know it, you don't know it. And the only way to find it out is to seek out people to learn from.
Exactly.
To seek out mentors. Years ago, I remember someone saying, Josh, if you want to be successful in business, hang out with successful businessmen, and women. If you want to be successful as an electrician, get around other electricians that are good at their trade. And ask questions. Ask lots of questions.
There's nothing more important than questions.
Yeah.
That's something I still do every day.
Well, and I actually hate the statement when people say there's no such thing as a stupid question, because I've been asked a lot of questions. But what I will say is, think about the question. If you take the time to invest in the question, then there is no such thing as a stupid question.
Yeah, I can support that.
Yeah.
I can support that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ian, I really appreciate you stepping up to the line, having a conversation with us about the trades and your story, your history. I love being here at DiamondBack. I love your product. I love what you guys are doing. And 84 people. That's a lot that he's managing.
I love that you guys are doing what you are doing. That's I obviously see the future of trades not dying down. So I do get concerned, especially growing up through high school, hearing like, hey, it's either college or bust. I think being able to kind of share stories and understand, hey, that's not the truth at all.
Well, I've said this more than once, and I think it matters to say, for every 5 people leaving the trades, only 1 is coming in. And our goal is to change that. We want to move that needle. And so please, as you listen to this, share it. Tell people about it. Talk with them about it. Tell them about the trades. Step up to the line with us. Thank you.